Greetings. Come on in. Let's have a chat. Let's have a great talk. So, yesterday I was shadow banned again, so I don't have the ability to make posts where people can see them. So I'm just seeing whether people can still access my live videos. Hope you're all doing well. So yeah, for the second time this year, I have been shadow banned by Facebook again, meaning anything I post doesn't really get seen by anybody. So I wanted to talk about love you too, Christina. Always love your support and having you beside me. You're amazing. I wanted to talk about a little bit about my personal spiritual journey, call it what you will. Awakenings, epiphanies, all the things that bring us into circumstance, into better ways of being, a better way to be. So yeah, in my earlier years, I had a bit of a rough life. So did we all in our own ways. Nobody has it perfect down here. I questioned everything. Everything. I was always questioning everything. I stayed at my brother's 10 years older than me, and I stayed at his house a couple of years ago, and he said to me, "Do you remember the questions that you would ask me when you were a kid?" I was like, "No, man, I don't remember any of the things I was asking you when I was a kid. It was just in and out, just questioning everything." And he said to me, "You asked me once when a battery's flat, where does what's inside the battery go? Where does the energy in the battery go?" And he couldn't answer that question, and I'm sure a lot of people struggle to answer a question like this, but it was a really important question to me. I needed to know where the energy inside a battery went when the battery was no longer charged. So I think most children have these questions. Most children have this ability to question everything. And nothing in school gave me rationalized answers. So I never went to school trying to find the truth, to find myself, because everything that it was about was just the opposite of that. And I really want to say something. I want to say something really important, and it's really important that people take this information and hold it close to them like the most precious thing they could hold. And it's an advice that I want to give to you all. And if you're just jumping on the truth train, if you're just jumping on, like if you've spent your life sort of questioning things and you're like, holy shit, man, like 2020, my friends were right, something's not right. So that information and that advice that I want to give to you all is, if we look at the design of the Western paradigm or the Western way of thinking, but where it's come from in schooling and education, if we look at everything that they have given us, everything they tell you in school, if you look for the opposite in it and hold that close to you as the truth, just look for the opposite in everything they tell you in school. If you do this for like 10, 15 years, you will hold the key. Because what they've actually done with the Western way of thinking is they've taken all of the divine information that we held as a tribal people, and they flipped it and gave us a doctrine in backwards formality of what the truth was. So I do not say that lightly. I say that with full confidence that that is exactly what they have done. So if you want to know the truth about nearly everything, look at what they're saying in the mainstream, and it is the opposite. I'm not a little bit sure of this. I'm not holding any curiosity about it. I am 100% certain in my heart that if you take the information that's given to us from the mainstream or the Western schooling system curriculum and you invert it, then you'll have the truth. And it's not just school. It's the experiences that they want us to have as well in life. They want us to have backwards experiences. So, yeah, in my earlier years, and I was just saying, like everyone's had their little difficulties in life. Everyone's had their struggles, and I always say that the reason why change and challenge are such similar words is because they are hand in hand. They work together. So without challenge, you can't seek change to find the best or source the best outcome for yourself. In my earlier life, I ended up in a homeless shelter. I had a lot of crazy experiences within this experience itself. It was not good for my spirituality. It was not good for where I was going in life. I actually preferred living on the streets than living in a homeless shelter, because what happened in these places were just really scary for me. So I had to work my way out of that. And I realized a lot of things going into the open streets. And there was a lot of things that I did in my youth that were very out of control, meaning I did not hold capacity of control of my earlier life. I was wild, I was untamed, and I was out of control. And most of that I wish for the youth of today. I wish for the youth of today to remain wild, to remain untamed. But to be out of control, you are exactly where they want you within the system. They want as many people out of control as possible. So one thing that I really had to work on, for me personally, in my inner quest that I was on, was to continue to question everything. And I just knew that. I knew that I had to question everything. There was nothing that was just apparent. Nothing is ever apparent. Everything's behind a smoke screen. And that smoke screen is what most people hold to them and call the truth. So I meet a lot of people, and I've lived in a lot of communities. I've met a lot of spiritually inclined people, and they've had all this beautiful information. They've been so well traveled. However, there'll be certain elements to their life that shows me that, perfect example, I meet a lot of beautiful spiritual people that spend 15 hours a day video gaming. And there's a reason why it's called a gaming console. There's a reason why it's called a console. There's a reason why it is called a console. Because if you think that device is not conning your soul, you have a lot of learning to do. So where I'm from in Australia, if you want to join the military, and you make an application for the military, and you tell them, when they ask you what your intention is for joining, if you tell them that you want to kill people, can you employ me, you'll be declined. Which is really strange, because it almost doesn't fit into what they're trying to do militarily within the world stage. So Australia aside, if we look into the American program of military, you can actually join the military, and when they ask you, what is your purpose and what's your intention of joining, you can tell them that you're wanting to kill people legally. They will welcome you in. They will welcome you in. And it's interesting, the two corporations that contract the soldiers of America, Halliburton and Blackwater. Hell and Blackwater. I wouldn't drink Blackwater, and if you look at the history of Halliburton, it's not quite a good one. And Blackwater, what an interesting name to incorporate into your registry to contract soldiers into patriotism. So, is it a known fact that a majority of the world's soldiers of America are all people, mostly, that played video games shooting people? So why is it called a console? What are we aspiring to as children? Because we weren't warriors for them. We were warriors for our tribe. Another thing I want to say, just speaking about military and Australia, isn't it interesting how if you look at the late 17th century encyclopedias, so when they went into Australia to divide and conquer, there was a way of thinking that they needed to project to the mainstream world for them to accept the invasion of Australia. So most people, if you go back to the encyclopedia 1780s, 1790s, it actually mentions that the original people of Australia were monkeys that were uncivilized, and they beat their women, and they lived in these straw shacks, and they were hunter-gatherers. Nothing could be further from the truth. If you believe that one of the most ancient recognized cultures, the oldest tribe in the world, still naturalized and living on their own soil, if you believe they lived in shacks and walked around with sticks poking fucking kangaroos and hoping for the best while beating their women and just being uncivilized, you're just buying into the lie. They did not live in shacks. If you travel around Australia, you'll see hundreds of thousands of stone temples that have all been destroyed. A lot of them still stand. They were not recognized for living in straw shacks as their way of life. And another one as well, we really fail to recognize what sort of potential power they had when the British Empire, when all of the foreign invaders came into Australia. Do we understand what sort of artillery was required to take these people out? So if these people just lived in shacks and carried around spears, poking kangaroos and beating their wives with their hands, you'd think they wouldn't really need nuclear weaponry to wipe this culture out. So what sort of technology did they have? If you believe the Australian original people did not already have electricity and alchemy, you've got a lot to come to, because what they had, if you go to Port Phillip Bay, the bottom of Melbourne City, in Victoria, down the very bottom of Australia, in between Tasmania and Victoria, there's a massive bay. And there's hundreds of warships and nuclear submarines that are sitting at the bottom of the water. What the narrative says is they just retired them and sunk them, but we don't often hear about the great battle that occurred in Australia. Never. It took 1,000 years for the invaders to get inland in Australia, because every time they came into Australia, the biggest aim for the invasion of Australia was going into the Murray-Darling to sail their boats down the Murray River. And they could never do it. The boats could never get down the Murray River without being sunken. And you think they're going to do that with spears? So when we talk about the greatest armies in the world, we're talking about people that fight from the heart. And yeah, so a lot of this stuff when I was younger was really, these are the things that I needed to know. I didn't need to know what Santa was bringing for Christmas. I needed to know why Santa was given to us. Why we were given these illusions that most parents will say, oh, it's just a bit of fun. It's no harm. If you don't understand trauma-based mind control, Santa is your best friend at Christmas. If you are one of the people that works your ass off every year, and we work so hard for our children that the one time you buy the most expensive gift for them at that time of the year, you say it's some strange fat man with a beard that is funded by the Catholic Church. Don't you know that all the Santas in the malls are funded by the Catholic Church? Wake up. This is the most simple words I can say is the one that starts with P and ends in edophilia. Because I'd hate to be fully banned from Facebook for swinging words and directing fingers. So, once again, yeah, I've been shadow banned from Facebook again. I can't make common posts that people can see, so I'm just doing this live video, and yeah, got a lot I can always talk about. But I wanted to just focus on like my spiritual inner quest, because it's something when you share your experiences, a lot of people can brush up beside them and really come to a lot of realization in themselves through that. So one thing that's really helped me a lot, I had the reason why I know so much about the Vatican is because I went to Catholic schools when I was younger, and my eyes were like open, like wide open, and I was just watching how this school system was being conveyed, and it really creeped me out. I asked so many questions when I was in my lower grades. I always got told what to do by my teachers. And I don't think it's I don't think it's a thing that brings comfort to a child to always be told what to do when we actually did come here to be free. So one of my teachers who always told me what to do, I ended up getting a stick and smacking him in the head with it, and I nearly got suspended for that. But it was something in my spiritual quest that I felt needed to be done. And this teacher, after this moment in history, like this teacher never spoke down on me. Like he rather would have kept away from me. In my religious education classes, one of my religious teachers, he always made mockery of me in the class. And it really hurt me a lot. It really hurt me to try to bring questions and an open forum to the classroom as a child, to always have him directing this mockery towards me where all the class would laugh. So one day I saw him walk into his office from my science room, and I saw him close the door. So I ran out of my science room just to go to the toilet, and I went and knocked on his door, and he let me in his door, and I said, "Can I please come in and have a chat to you?" He said, "Sure, mate, what's going on?" We had a chat. I said, "I really don't appreciate when you make the class laugh at me." And he could see the sadness in my eyes. He could see that I didn't want to be in school. And he said to me, "I appreciate what you're saying here today. I didn't know how much it affected you. And I'm going to make an effort to not do this in class anymore." So I really took his word. Next class, he had the class laughing at me. So I picked up my desk and I threw it at him, and he went against the wall, and I really hurt him physically. And he told me to get out of the room. So I went out the classroom and I looked through the door at him, and there I was just giving him the middle finger through the door. And that's just one experience out of so many in school. Like this was just my cycles of life in school. No one could tell me what to do. No one could ever make fun of me because I was always ready there in the front line to not so much retaliate, but to respond. In their eyes, it would have been retaliation, but to your fellow man, you should never, ever bring them down, because we're all the same people. So if we're not bringing each other up, there's going to be repercussions spiritually. So in my whole earlier life, especially in all of my schooling, I knew everything around me was mind control. All of it. And I realized very young in my life that the agenda surrounding us on all platforms was to divide us all. It wasn't through research, it was through observation. I couldn't not see what was there to be seen. I was looking for these answers. So look at how they divide us today. Like, look at where we are right now. Look at where we are right now. Are we divided or are we united? Because that's the question. Do I want to be divided or do I want to be united? I don't care who wears a mask. I really don't. It's a measurement. It's a measurement of how asleep somebody is. That's one way of saying it. It is a way of seeing whose spell someone is cast under. If you're wearing a mask that is full of toxins, but all the dentists and the surgeons use it and they never died. Let me say this. If you put something on your face and you don't know where that's come from, what else would you do? What would you do? If I gave you a piece of material that had this blue lining of something that you didn't know what it was, and you knew nothing about toxicity or chemistry or biochemistry or any of these subjects, and you put that on your face, who do you think you are? And do we know what their agenda is? Oh, I've had enough of this talk. Like, wouldn't they put it on the morning show if they were spraying the skies? They bloody would have told us on the news in the morning. Tracy Grimshaw would have told me at 7 a.m. in the morning that they were poisoning us. No. And do we understand? Do we know the reason why you see the same person on the same news set every single day for 10 years, sometimes 15 years, sometimes 40 years? Because when you welcome somebody into your family and you allow that energy to come in, you trust that. If you have a different person on the news every day, do you really think that you would have the population following these orders from a new person every day? No. They understand mind control. So when you go to psychology and psychiatry in university and they give you these little tiny speckles of mind control and how to overcome things and how to stay under things, this is coming from the people who understand the doctrine of magic and mind control. I don't call it mind control because I'm not a fool. I call it magic craft because that's what it is. If you believe, if you think you know that what's happening right now is these creeps, these psychopaths are making a new world order because they want greed and money. Bill Gates, he's the richest man in the world, and he became the richest man in the world through this bloody coronavirus pandemic. So, something about money. No, it is not about money. It is not about control. It is about ritual. Do we understand? Do you believe that inquisitions and the world wars were about land grabs and cultural change? No, it was about magic craft ritual, ceremonial magic. So what do you think mass media is? Mass is Gnostic mass. Mass media is Gnostic mass. So when the world follows in line to an agenda, it is Gnostic mass. So look at how they're dividing us. Not me. I don't have time for that. I'm not trying to put myself up higher than anyone because it's not what I've ever come here to do. But I was well beyond this, well before it happened. And I knew what they were going to do. People were talking about it. People have been talking about it for a long time. And people like Bill Cooper really helped me in my earlier years. Bill Cooper, he had a radio show in America, and it's totally different now than it was back in the 80s and the 90s. If you had a radio show, you could just jump on air and start speaking truth, but now every radio show, they've all been dominated. They're all owned by the one temporal arm of Rome. You can't own a television station or a radio station unless you're initiated. That's the world that we're in. And you think the New World Order's coming? The New World Order's been here. The New World Order's been here for a long time. There's nothing new about it. Nothing. It's the world order. So when it's the New World Order, and it's no longer new anymore, what is it? It is world order. The reason why it's called the United Nations is because they want us all believing that it's united. It's a done deal. Previously, the United Nations was the League of Nations because they had everyone believe that we're a league of nations. We're all coming together under the one umbrella to amalgamate for one cause. No, we weren't. It was the spiritual agenda behind the UN that's put us where we are today. And if you feel and you truly believe that the United Nations, if you believe the United Nations is a political think tank, wrong. It is a spiritual agenda, and it holds craft magic in it deeply. Look up the United Nations prayer room in the European Union. It's a black cube, which is Saturnian. It's Saturnian worship. So yeah, like, where are we? Well, we're all here, and what do we want? We want chips and burgers and free social media platforms, and I want everything given to me at any time that I want it. We are conducted. We are like this orchestra that is being conducted, and every time they make a new tone, we move along to the rhythm. But lo and behold, that rhythm, take the opposite of what they're doing, and you've got the truth. If you look at everything they're telling us, take the opposite and you hold the truth. What I'm saying right now, if I said this in the 70s, I would have been locked in a cell, 100%. So I feel really free that I can even do this on a social platform. To what degree? So another thing I wanted to talk about is where I made my biggest changes in life, because I was so like, where I see a lot of people are through this pandemic, a lot of people are like, well, what do we do? What are we going to do? Like, we just need to go off grid and we need to fight back. But that's one thing to say it. What are you doing to fight back? We need to reconcile with the force of knowing and fight back. How? Like, what most people I find are doing, they've got their couch, their comfortabilities, their favorite foods, and they've got this platform that they're posting on. But what changes are we making in the world? Like, what changes are we making in the world? Because we are the most powerful things. We're in a society where most people are looking up or outward to somebody else. Most people are looking outward to somebody else to look up to. And this goes right back to what I was saying about do the opposite. If you think that what we're meant to do is look up, look out and look up to somebody, look in and look down to yourself and bring yourself up. Look down to your deepest depths and bring yourself up. Because they want every single person looking out and up at other people. And that's something that has really shocked my system in life. Like, I've never been able to say, well, that guy, like, he's a fucking legend. Like, he did this for the world and did that for the world. What am I going to do for the world? What the fuck are we going to do for the world? What are you doing for the world? We all have something to offer. So what do we have to offer? So mind control comes in so many platforms, and most people that I see that know what's happening right now is a diversion and a creation to take us away from what's actually going on. it's good to see. It's really good to see that 60% of the world is shitting their pants right now. It's really good to see, because that shows an amount of people that are ready to take another step. And I just really feel the pain for these people that have only just started researching a year ago, because I know how much information you can cram in 1 year. And what they've been doing has been for thousands of years. I wanted to know, me and someone were talking about it a couple of nights ago actually. He was saying to me that he had to go into the darkest parts of his soul to find out what the worst things are you could do to understand how these people operate, who are in control of the system, so to call it. And I agreed with him, and I was like, yes, man, like, you fully have the key to what the darkest things they are potential of doing if you go to the deepest part of your depths of darkness, because that's where they come from. They come from the deepest parts of the depth of their darknesses. And if you want to understand where they're going, then that's what you would have to do. You can't sit there trying to do the right thing in life and say, well, what is it that they're trying to do? So you offer earth, love, truth, and compassion. Good. And I hope you've got your war sword forward, brother, when things go down, because my war sword is, the only thing I'm really good at is talking, and I take pride in that. And that's what I was talking about with what is it that we've got to offer. So as long as it's something that inspires other people, yeah, so what do I offer to the world? What do I offer to the world? Biscuits, cakes, lollies. I could talk about these all day. Entheogens. I could talk about these all day. I wrote a post recently saying that I can offer my poetics as a solution, but what is the ultimate solution? Look at how beautiful this is. Look at these gills. They're like a fish that breathe the air. Such wonderful, wonderful creatures these are. Look at that. And isn't it funny? Isn't it hilarious that, speaking of looking for the opposite of what things are, if you want to know the truth, find out what the mainstream's saying about something and invert it, and you have the truth. So what's the mainstream saying about these? They're dangerous, they're poisonous, they can kill you, they can ruin your life. And that's not what the shamans viewed these as. This is not what the shamans viewed these as. So what does entheogen mean? Entheogen means manifesting the divine within. So isn't it funny, hilarious, that the scientific community, science is the Greek word for knowledge, isn't it funny that the scientific community doesn't call these psychedelics? They call them entheogens, which means manifesting God within, or manifesting the divine within. So while all these scientists are running around saying, oh, they're poisonous and they'll kill you, those entheogens are dangerous, they're actually using the word entheogen, which means manifesting or creating God within. The atheistic, godless scientific community. And who do you think created the movement of scientism? You got it. All roads lead to Rome. So all of these people, death caps are really deadly. That's why they're called death caps. Then they are known to kill people, but they're really easily identifiable. And I don't doubt that they have a lot of things that you can do with them on a medicinal level. Like, that's something I want to look into. I want to look into death caps. Amanita phalloids is what their title is. Amanita phalloids are death caps, and They are of the Amanita family. However, Amanita phalloides and Amanita muscaria, or Amanita pantherina, it's not hard to identify these. And when you put a death cap beside them, you can see there's a recognizable, identifiable trait of the death cap or the phalloides, and they're deadly. Like, they will kill you, and they take weeks, sometimes a month, to kill you. They kill you slowly, and that's how they've demonized the truth. Because we knew medicine, we knew that you don't just go out to the jungle and just start eating all the things off the ground without knowing the codex of nature, which is identification, knowing how to identify what's in nature. So isn't it interesting how psilocybin is illegal in most countries, but muscimol is fully legal in most countries? Because what they did, instead of illegalizing it and making people take the directive of danger in psilocybins, they've demonized Amanita so much that they don't even need to put restrictions, heavy restrictions on these, because most people are just by the Western paradigm, not nature. Most people by the Western paradigm are scared to death of what brings them to life. So it's interesting how all these people that claim enlightenment through yoga of the highest degree, like the amount of people that I've heard say that they found the biggest realizations in their life through yoga, you ain't seen nothing yet. So you're saying that the shamans that held all of the traditional knowledge were wrong about divining. This was the most simple tool of divining all information that was necessary with intention. So with psilocybin is so different in the way that they're both entheogens. They both manifest the God within. They manifest the divine within. But psilocybin shows you everything when you're in an awakened state. But Amanita muscaria shows you, it puts you to sleep, and it opens up the vision then. So you don't have to be distracted by what's in the now. She gently puts you to sleep, and then you wake up feeling great, knowing what the visions are that she wants you to know. So pantherina, there have been recorded circumstances where muscaria has slight nauseating effects. Not in all people. Some people have recorded that muscaria has slight nauseating effects, whereas pantherina does not induce those effects. So that's a really big difference between Amanita muscaria and Amanita pantherina. And pantherina, or panther caps, or false blushes, because they're not the same as blusher amanitas. They have a similar identifiability, but the panthers are almost twice, the pantherinas are almost twice the amount of muscimol, but that doesn't mean that they will send you somewhere where you can't handle being. This person, this being, recognizes the person that they're working with. So pantherina has a really strong knowledge behind it that they are a lot smoother for most people that have those nauseating effects. So you wouldn't have to have 5 or 10 of these externally. You wouldn't have to have 5 or 10 of these externally to know whether they were nauseating. And if you're someone who's gaining these supplies from us, just wanting to get high, you're in a lot of trouble, and she'll fuck you up. She will fuck you up, because that is totally disrespectful. These were never used by every culture of the world shamanically to get high. They were used to go high and to get the information that is stored above us in the Akashic records. And there's multiple modalities of doing this. Where I come from, the Australian original culture, they have the acacia, And their holy bread was the acacia bread. They would gather the acacia seeds to make their bread, or they would use the acacia bark to make the what a lot of people call today dimethyltryptamine, which if you write the word Dreamtime down, you can see the word DMT in it. The acacia takes you to the acacia. We need to understand the commonalities in words because they tell us everything we need to know. So at the moment, we're doing a promotion. We're doing 20% off all of our supplies. So get in on that. I'm probably never gonna do anything more than that. The reason I want to say this, the reason why Pantherinas are slightly more at cost is because they are much rarer to find. They're a lot harder to find, whereas we see Amanitas growing in most northern places. Pantherinas do not grow everywhere. They're a lot harder to find, and they do bring a much more deeper experience when used externally. So just going back to like my spiritual experiences, I went through Christian studies. I became a Jehovah's Witness for like 2 days. I couldn't handle it. I was raised through Catholicism loosely. It wasn't like a Catholicism upbringing where I had to go to church every Sunday. I looked deeply into Freemasonry. I wanted to become a Mason. Before I became a Mason, I was like, hang on, do I really want to waste my time with Masonry when I can just go straight into Templars? I was not sure where I wanted to go, but I knew I wanted to go somewhere. And I went within. And everything that we need is within. And the opposite of the word within is without. If you do not go within, you go without. So all the people claiming enlightenment through yoga and stretching their body on Instagram, there is a door. And you can walk straight through it. And everybody's welcome. So yeah, I'm not sad that I've been shadow banned. It's the second time this year that I've been shadow banned from Facebook. I can't post anything where people can read my content in the news feed, so I'm just not going to make posts for a while. About a year ago, I was going to delete my Facebook. I really couldn't be fucked with it. I've got better things to do in life, but I love you all so much. I love doing what I do. I love talking to people. I love bringing awareness. But now in my life, the main thing that I want to focus on is psychedelics or entheogens. And I always had that in the back of my heart. I always had it there. And at the right points of conversation, I would always bring it out to the right people. But I realized that I want to bring it to everybody. So that was something that really changed for me in the last year. It was something over the last few years that I knew I wanted to do, was to bring it out. So there was no surprise in starting reindeeramanita.com. There was no surprise. It's something that I've held very close to me for a long time. And it's just really interesting place that I've come to in life where I can do it now, and I've got the motivation, and I've got so many people that I'm connected with that support what I'm doing, that motivates me to keep doing what we're doing. And if you are Freemasonry isn't the Roman Empire is an ancient society, and the Roman Empire created a guild. So we have like workers' unions these days where everyone comes together. Like if you need to, so if you're a building engineer or an architect, you don't have to call up the painter, call up the plumber, and call up the builder, and call up the electrician, and call up the window installer. You don't have to call all these people. You make one phone call to the union, and that guy makes all of the arrangements to get all the builders on site of different degrees. So what Freemasonry was a church building society. That's why the entry degree is apprentice, because you've got the apprentices in building. That's why the second degree is you've got like the tiler, and the tiler was the guy who tiled the cathedral floors. And it goes all the way up to Treasurer, to Grand Master, to exterior realms of Templarism. So yeah, it's an ancient society, but then the Freemasons were given different roles, like postal deliveries. So if there was no cathedral floors to build in this time of the era, you would send him off to do post. But then they started doing assassination works, and they started doing all sorts of things, like opening up these portals to the builders to learn magic craft to control, because they needed to gain an arm around the world. So going back to Amanita, just want to show you one of the tinctures that we've made. It's almost nearly all gone. So if you get around about 15 grams of Amanita muscaria, or you could probably get the same amount of Pantherina, maybe a little bit less, because it's nearly twice the amount of muscimol. The muscimol is the one that does a lot of the work. So if you get about 15 to 20 grams of it, and you mix it with a solvent such as, so we're in Lithuania, we've got Lithuanian mushrooms, and we're using Lithuanian 40% vodka. So if you get 40% vodka and you dilute 15 grams, I'd say 20 grams into 1 litre, keep it in the litre for 1 to 2 weeks, 2 weeks preferably, shake it every day gently, and then strain off all of the solid parts. Throw this in the garden, the solid parts, and keep the liquid. You will have the strongest pain remedy that the world has ever known of. And I can't challenge this, I can't debate this. All of these modalities that people are using for pain control, none of them were put through the Inquisitions. The reason why this was banned through the Inquisitions was because it provided immediate remedy to any pain at all. So if you've got spine damage or you've got slip discs and you get really bad pains, that application that I was just talking about, make it. And we wanted to distribute tinctures because we know how strong it is, but because of the alcohol in them, we can't ship alcohol without going through all of this rubbish, that it just isn't worth it to do that. But I can tell you now, plant craft or power plant herb craft remedies are so easy to do. So if you do end up getting any of these, we've got 20% off all our products at the moment. Give me a message and I'll help you to make it at home. And challenge me. Find the person in your family that has so much external pain in their life they can unbearably live. They won't feel a thing. And that's crazy. I'm not here to sell you a new vacuum cleaner or a saucepan package or a holiday overseas. I'm here to tell you nature is just around the corner. And if these don't grow in your area, come to us at reindeeramanita.com and we have the solution, because I trust this thing. And just saying, like earlier in the video, everything that's been demonized, the most demonized things in society are the things that help us the most. We need to know this. We need to know that the most demonized things in the world are the things that help us the most. What is the most demonized thing in the jungle? Amanita. She is the most demonized substance in the jungle. But nobody looks at it and thinks, oh my god, that thing's so fucking scary, run. No, people just sit there and stare at it. They get on their knees, they take a photo, and they keep walking. They had wonder and admiration for her glory. But she's ready to be used by everybody. And can it help on inner pain? We only sell it externally, though I have heard that it absolutely helps internally. But I can't say anything about that. I always direct people to Amanita Dreamer on YouTube. There's a reason why she's called Amanita Dreamer. It's because she puts you to sleep to give you the visions. But that's not why we sell them. We only sell them for external use, if you get what I'm putting down. So 50% of the reason why we're doing what we're doing is for internal pain. The other 50% is for external pain. There's nothing that really, like a lot of people refer to ayahuasca as the mother of all herbs. Like that's what the plant is common to the area actually call ayahuasca, the mother of all herbs. But good luck rubbing ayahuasca on your body and relieving external pains. Good luck with that. Amanita muscaria, even all of the babushkas here, the grandmas, they know, they still use this remedy. And you go into like the Western world or Australia or the United States, people are just like going into the pharmacy and using Western pharmaceuticals without actually knowing nature or her design. Nature and her design is very simple, and we all need to get with it. So just once again, before I sound like a broken record, we're doing 20% off all our products at the moment. And if you're so poor that you can't afford it, please give me a message and we'll see what we can do for you. Or if it grows in your area, go for it. Go for it. Because she's there, ready to be used. And can you imagine how sad she is? That everyone's just like, oh fuck, that thing's scary, keep moving. Imagine if you were just sitting there waiting for someone to come and divine you and to use you for the betterment of yourself. And everyone that just walked past says, oh my god, that thing's fucking scary, take a photo and run. How far we have come. So I'm so proud of myself that the path that I have chosen intimately is a path that I've been on for a long time, but now I'm outwards with it. I am able to bring among the most healing modalities to the world. I couldn't be more proud of myself, and I'm so like half of my days now go into just being in the Amanita world. So there's plenty of room for everybody. We need more people talking about Amanita. We need more people talking about Amanita. So talk about it. Start talking about it to your friends. Who is in your family that is in so much pain externally or internally? Who is in your family that is in so much pain externally and you haven't yet talked to these people about it because I wouldn't talk to them about it. They're so brainwashed. How do you know what pain brings to you? So many people would be like, fuck, I'll try anything. I wouldn't say this kicks in 5 to 10 minutes. This is the only thing I can think of in nature that when you apply it through the distillation or the processes, as soon as you put it onto the body externally, it instantly heals the pain. So entheogens and psychedelics, the forbidden science. And how did most people end up in psych wards? They could see the truth. They went through the door and they could see. And when you see, you can never unsee. So I can't promote Pantherina more than I do. This is my favorite. Personally, like if you grind this into powder or you just smell it as it is, you would think that it smells like just a normal mushroom. When you smell it, it smells like the most beautiful mushroom you'll ever smell. That should tell you enough, because scent identification in herbcraft is probably the most important thing to do. Because before you put it in your mouth to taste it, like nothing that you put in your mouth in the jungle kills you by putting it in your mouth and spitting it out. So when you smell this once it's dry, it actually smells so sweet. So sweet. And a lot of people boil these and use it for food and eat them. So how's about they're not deadly? These are a food people are using. But I don't recommend anybody use this as a food. I would recommend that you use it spiritually, perhaps externally. So, what else do you want me to say? Oh, sure. She said she wants me to tell you all that she loves you all so much. And if you're scared of her, maybe open your eyes a bit more. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a really good one. Nice call, love. Yeah, is there anything else that you want to say? Oh, so she said she wants you all to go to reindeeramanita.com and type in on the voucher code section on the checkout, fly reindeer fly as the promotion code to get 20% off all of our products now. It's not our product, she's our own product. We're just able to distribute it, and we've got so many. We want to bring so many to the world. So, anything else you want to say? She said, she loves you more than you could ever know, and all she wants you to do is connect back to her through divinity because she will show you the way. And thanks all for tuning in.